Russians are gathering more troops north of Kharkiv. On May the 23rd, we confirmed that the 2nd Motorized Rifle Division are operating north of Vovchansk. This is an important signal. Both the 2nd Motorized Rifle Division and 47th Tank Division are here. Both belongs to the 1st Tank Army. There are 3 divisions in this army. The 4th Tank Division are not here yet. The 4th Tank Division are previously operating near Statovi. If they are transferred to north of Kharkiv, that would mean a major escalation. Besides that, Ukrainian COD report shows that there is a Russian airborne force unit north of Lipsy. It is very likely an airborne assault regiment. This means here the Russians are not only the 44th Combined Army, which is a new formation. Some strong reinforcements are coming. This is Jason Jiang from Shenzhen, China. Today's report covers information of Russo-Ukrainian war from 21st to 24th of May. On May the 20th, Zelensky said he wants the Allies to directly engage in the war with Russia. He said Russians are using 300 planes on the territory of Ukraine. We need at least 120 or 30 planes to resist. He said if the Allies could not supply the planes straight away, they could still fly them from the neighboring NATO states and shoot down the Russians. Or the Allies can supply more weapons or troops. I was surprised. The Europeans already helped the Ukrainians a lot. Actually, the Ukrainian army is already the strongest army in Europe, with the most fighting experience. Do you expect some British or French army to save you?
Bernard, what is the purpose of our defense policy?
To defend Britain?
No, Bernard. Is to make people believe Britain is defended.
The Russians?
Not the Russians, the British! The Russians know it's not.
This shows that the Ukrainians are facing a lot of pressure. Here in Sumy, there's something interesting. The Ukrainian COD reports that Russia's Kursk operating group has 3 motorized rifle regiments, 9 battalions, and 2 assault battalions with 10,000 men. Are the Russians planning to attack Sumy? I think the strategic value of Sumy is much less than Kharkiv or Izium. Maybe the Russians are just trying to engage more Ukrainian troops and stretch their reserves. Near the Kharkiv border, 128th Brigade of Sever operating group are positioned here, north of Kharkiv border. They can attack through this road directly into Kharkiv from the west. This is a bigger threat to the Ukrainians. If the Russians pull more troops here and start a new offensive, I will not be surprised. And that means the Russians are serious about Kharkiv offensive. In Lipsy direction, Russians continue to attack. Here the major force is the 18th Motorized Rifle Division. They are attacking from Hivoki towards Lipsy. For the past 3 days, they made a little gain here. In the east of Lipsy, Ukrainians start counter-offensive, and there is no change of the contact line. Here the Ukrainian COD report shows that there is a Russian airborne force regiment here, and their number is yet to be verified. The Ukrainian 92nd Assault Brigade are fighting here. It's very likely the whole brigade is transferred from Chasiv Yar to here. Along the Severodonetsk River, the Russians are still clearing the forest, and there is no confirmation of the Russians across the river. Here the Chechen Akhmat are operating. It's the West Akhmat Battalion. In the northern part of Vovchansk, Ukrainians successfully carried out a counter-offensive on May the 22nd and 23rd and recaptured some blocks here. This is a brave move. But unless the Ukrainians are able to push the Russians all out of this town, or they cannot hold this line, I think the Ukrainians are trying to buy more time so that in the southern part they are able to build up a defense line. For the past 3 days, there are reports saying Russians go across the river and attack, but there is no confirmation that the Russians have secured a settlement in the southern part of the river. Here the Russian Minister of Defense confirmed that the Ukrainian 3rd Tank Brigade has arrived for reinforcement. Last year they were fighting near Bakhmut. They were equipped with Leopard 2 tanks. Here we see there are 23rd Mechanized Brigade, 82nd Air Assault Brigade. The 60th and 63rd Mechanized Brigades are all operating here, but these brigades are not in their full strength. Some of them, only 1 battalion arrived. If the Russians continue pushing, maybe they will have to transfer more troops here. Now the Russians are planning to cross the Severodonetsk River. I think they will attack from 2 directions. One is here, the Prilipka direction. Here they can threaten the supply line of Vovchansk, and also the Russians may attack from Zibinin. They can go south and threaten the main supply line of Vovchansk. The Ukrainian COD report also said if the enemy managed to cross the Severodonetsk River towards Prilipka, the situation of Kharkiv Tactical Group defending Vovchansk will be sharply deteriorate. Now the Russians are transferring troops to Ohitova and Avdiivka. It shows they are planning to go across the river here. And in the Kupiansk direction, the Russians are attacking towards Berestove for the past 3 days to improve their tactical position here. 27th Guards Motor Rifle Brigades are operating. It is likely they are still here to bring down the Ukrainian troops so that they will not go north to help. Around Svatove, we have the 4th Guards Tank Division. We haven't heard from them for a long time. Maybe they are also transferring to the Kharkiv direction. In the Siversk direction, the Russians are attacking Bilohorivka. There are reports saying that Russians already captured this town, but actually it's not true. The main part of this town is already under Ukrainian control, especially this high ground. The Russians are continue pushing in the south and improve their positions. The number 7th Brigade of the former LPR is operating here. Here in Spirny, the Russians are attacking in the southwest part and gain control over this area. And also the Russians are attacking towards Rostovivka and north of Vesely direction. Here the Russians' main force is 106th Airborne Division, along with some former LPR brigades. In Chasiv Yar direction, Russians made some major gain. On 21st of May, the Russians successfully captured the first line of buildings in this micro-district, and also they are attacking in the north in Kalinina direction. In the forest line, Russians successfully crossed the canal. If they are able to capture this forest, they can attack north and enter Chasiv Yar main district. Here the Russians' 98th Guards Airborne Divisions are operating, and also some former Wagner Assault Brigades and the 11th Airborne Brigades are also operating here. Here the 150th Division, we haven't had their battle report for a few days. They were saying they already transferred back to Marinka direction, but it's not confirmed yet. And in Klishivka, Russians made some major gains. On May the 19th, Russians captured more than half of this village, and on 22nd of May, they successfully captured the whole village, and the Ukrainians retreat back to the Canal line. On May the 23rd, the Russians also captured Avdiivka. This is a very small village with a few houses. The only 2 settlements east of the canal are Klishivka and Avdiivka. Now the Ukrainians lost both of them, so they have to withdraw to the west of the canal. So what's Russians' plan next? The Ukrainian COD report tells that the Russians will attempt to bypass Chasiv Yar without directly assaulting the city by operating from the south to southwest, while simultaneously forming the northern flank for the Kursk operation. So the Ukrainians believe that the Russians may not directly attack Chasiv Yar and will attack Kursk. I think if the Russians want to capture Kursk, they will have to capture Chasiv Yar first, or they will not have a secure flank. Here we can see Kursk and New York, a very fortified area, especially in the east. If the Russians capture Chasiv Yar, they will be able to attack Kursk from the north. On Avdiivka direction, Russians had a major success. On May the 23rd, Russians captured Umansk. Now the Ukrainians in this whole area may have to retreat. If the Russians continue pushing, they will be able to reach this river line, and this will be a major success for them. Here the attacking force is 114 Brigade. They are the former DPR force. They fought very well in the Battle of Avdiivka. They are the ones that cut the supply line in Industrial Street of Avdiivka and forced the Ukrainians to retreat. And surprisingly, they haven't had rotation since then. In the southern part, on May the 22nd, Russians captured the southern part of Netlovi. So now the only settlement they have here is Nevelsk. This is a very small settlement between Netlovi and Krasnogorivka. In Krasnogorivka, the Russians continue pushing and capture this part of the town. They are also attacking the northern part, the residential area. So here we can see a pincer attack. And if the Ukrainians do not have counteroffensive in the coming days, this town will fall very soon. Once the Russians capture this town, the Ukrainians here will have to retreat, and after that, there are 10 kilometers of plant fields, and we are very likely to see the Russians will capture this whole area in the summer. To conclude, Russians are pulling more troops to the north. The Kharkiv offensive is not the main offensive yet. The Russians claim, we just want a buffer zone to protect Belgorod. But if the Ukrainians don't have proper defense line, the Russians will be very happy to take Kharkiv. In the coming days, we may see Russians have more troops transferring to north of Kharkiv. We will see how they cross the Severodonetsk River and Vovchansk River. And last but not least, some people ask me whether there is a war in Taiwan. I live in Shenzhen, 600 kilometers away from Taiwan, and here we have 10 times more information than you. This is a military drill. It is not a war yet. If there's a war coming, I will let you know. So don't worry, enjoy your time and have a nice day. This is Jason Jiang from Shenzhen, China. Thank you for watching and see you next time.